Hey guys, what's up? It's Monday, time for another edition of the Breakfast Club. I really need to get a dedicated intro to my videos like everyone else does, but I just have no clue what type of... That's neither here or there. Let's get on with the topic. This particular video is going to be a little bit more politically charged and politically themed than my past few videos have been. And, well, it's different than my other stuff because I've been making a conscious decision not to put up politically themed videos for the past few episodes I've done. The reason for this was because I felt that the other members of the Breakfast Club were doing a really good job at bringing up these topics and bringing their points, for people to discuss. And I wanted to come up with something with a little bit more levity or just slightly lighter topics than just political ones. Because these days so much stuff is politically charged, and I thought I would kind of approach subjects from another angle. However, there was something that had happened earlier that I recently got into a conversation about, which, while what I'm about to address happened in the past, several months back, it's still something that I feel has relevance, and it happens to be a pet peeve of mine. So, yeah, let's just get on to it. It's basically on some of the dumb things that was stated by Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White, who is a controversial figure, to say the least. Back in January of this year, for instance, she was suggesting that people send her their freaking first month's paycheck or face some type of divine punishment. That's the type of person she is. And she's associated with the president of this country. That's a whole other... It's not that, however, that I want to discuss. Though there's plenty to say about that. And the implications of it. And the fact that she's connected to... It's something that she said last year in September that I recently had a discussion about today that just made me okay, I got to talk about this today because, again, it's a pet peeve. And it was when she said back in September that we should, we have to accept Donald Trump as president because God elevated him to the presidency. That to go against his presidency, to try to resist that and his policies, is to be going against God. Her reasoning for this is simple. It's basically God basically elevates people to positions of authority, to positions of leadership. It's God's choice who gets to lead. And God is supposedly picking the right people for the job, right? And if you're going to be having a problem with who God puts in positions of power, then it means you must have a problem with God's judgment and God himself. Of course, it's a him. And therefore, of course, that will make you such a bad person or a sinner or something because you're going against the righteous one's judgment. So we have to accept that. To use one of her statements, she says, because God says he raises up and places all people in places of authority, it is God who raises up a king. It is God that sets one down. There are so many freaking problems with that statement. Now, I, again, apologize that I'm bringing up something that happened last year in September, but this is something that I find that keeps coming up again and again in this country, and I don't understand why it comes up in this country. First of all, I wish somebody could take this woman aside, maybe give her some electroshock therapy to get her to be receptive to the following fact or something. I don't know, and I know people are going to get mad at me for what I just said, but whatever. This is not a kingdom, okay? This is not a theocracy, despite the fact that there are people who desperately want this country to be a theocracy. This is a democratic republic. It is not some spiritual presence that dictates who gets to be put into the office, the executive branch, the executive office. It's supposedly supposed to be the people's vote, not God on high. In fact, that's one of the major principles that this country was founded upon. The whole concept of the people putting people into positions of power was a radical statement at that time. Yet people seem to forget that one of the major reasons why the American Revolution was so significant wasn't just because it was a small power against the major empire, which was, Great Britain, but because these people were turning down a monarchy and basically saying to that monarchy, Not, we don't recognize you as our leader. And the reason why we don't recognize you is because we understand that we have the power to give someone else the authority to rule over us. We don't care who you think put that crown on your head. We don't care what bishop said God has ordained this. No, we reject that notion. That was a big deal back then. I really wish people would understand just how big a deal that was, like just the significance of that, the radicalism of that particular statement. The Declaration of Independence is a rather radical statement when you consider the time period that it was written in and who it was directed towards and for what reasons. It was a rejection of the belief that some force from outside of the masses gets to dictate who gets to lead. They're like, no, we decide who gets to rule over us. And the extra point, if we don't like what they're doing, we can toss them out. It's not God who selects who rules. We do. We choose who we decide is going to govern us. And if we feel they're doing a bad job, we can kick them out by force if necessary. That is one of the main principles that founded this country. It's also one of the reasons, by the way, that so many people believe that the Second Amendment gives them the right to rebel against this country, however fallacious that statement is. It's still based on that principle of rebellion against those that you feel aren't fit to rule. And that belief doesn't come from a religious notion. It's in the belief of a republic, in the power of the people themselves. So for somebody to then go in this day and age, in this country, to go, well, you shouldn't go against Trump because God put him there. That person is so ignorant of this country's history and the policies that help to form it that they shouldn't even be put on, they shouldn't even have a place in the table of discussion over policies in this country at all. They shouldn't have a camera put on them. They shouldn't have a platform to speak. They are woefully intellectually unprepared for this sort of discussion. And it's pathetic that they're given a platform to spew their garbage. The other reason, and this is a less significant, but it's still important enough that I have a problem with this statement, is it goes to show that someone who's making a statement like that is incredibly self-centered and is only thinking about their own sphere of influence. If one is going to believe that God is the one who places people, in places of power, okay, how many dictators have we seen on the planet throughout human history? How many horrible rulers? How many, just leaders who are known for just mass killings, complete ineptitude, just men and women who've, bankrupted their country or had reigns of terror, people who other countries basically had to start wars to get rid of. I'm sure you guys are naming names right now, including names that supposedly end arguments. God supposedly put them up there, right? You see how stupid that freaking statement is if you just think about it for less than 10 seconds? The reason why this is such a pet peeve for me is because I live in what's supposed to be a democratic republic. And it's the fact that people would listen to people like Paula White and go, she's got a point. That's what frustrates me. If people just had a cursory understanding of their history, they'd be just as incensed as I was. Or at the very least, amused. You said, what? Are you serious? But that's not the response you usually see. You generally tend to see people like, she might have a point. Or, that's wacky, but I guess there's something to be debated. No, there's no debate. It's a stupid freaking statement. That's not what this country was founded upon. You want to have a country where your God dictates who is the leader? Go somewhere else. That's not how things are supposed to happen here. If the country had a war against another country, that's how it was founded. That's why it's such a pet peeve for me. It's a statement of complete ignorance that's usually accepted at point value. I can't even speak properly right now. It's just taken face value. Just that makes sense to me, especially if you happen to be religious. You're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. God controls everything. Yeah, okay, fine. You want to believe that God controls everything else, okay, but that's not what this country was founded upon. That's not how our government was formed. If it was something that the founding fathers truly believed, they wouldn't even thought to rebel against their king or make the statement that they had a right to do it because the power came from the people. If it came from a religious statement or a religious stance, they would have written the Declaration of Independence like, God has given us the ability to overthrow our rulers to put a new king up. Hell, they didn't even decide to have a king for this country. They have a president who they later on changed so they could have an election every 4 years to see whether or not he gets to stay as president. And after 8 years, he has to go whether they like it or not. So that right there shows a belief that one shouldn't be up there for too long. It shouldn't be a permanent position. It's not a dictatorship. It's not a monarchy. It's not something that is set in stone just because a God said so. It's something that the people will to happen. A statement that basically says, oh, you can't fight against this because God said so. It's so against the basic principles that founded this country. It's mind-blowing. It's the type of thing, like, those who call themselves patriots should be incensed that a statement like that gets broadcasted throughout the national news and that it's given enough weight for people to debate on, for people to believe in. It's insanity. Now, again, I know this statement was stated way back in September, and I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people who argued about that, but the fact that I had to have a discussion about it today, before I even put this video up, the reason why I'm making this video is because I had to have a discussion about it. Yeah. That's what incenses me. This shouldn't be an issue, but it is. Anyway, alright. I didn't mean to rant and rave. I don't want my videos to be just me, like, frothing at the mouth at the camera. But this is a pet peeve of mine. It's been a pet peeve of mine for years. Years. It's even more ironic to me that I'm the son of immigrants. And I understand this concept better than people who've been born here. For a long period of time. Yeah. My next video, hopefully, I won't be this discombobulated. I promise. I'll try to promise. Hope you got something out of it in any case. And I'll catch you guys later.